Hey everyone, today we're going to be doing a packing comparison between a carry-on suitcase and travel backpack. This is actually a topic that was recommended to me by a member of the community. They reached out via Instagram and asked if I could do a video on this topic, and I thought it was a great idea as it felt like the type of thing that many people might be wondering as they start to plan out their next trip and trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to pack. And so in this video I'll be talking about some of the differences as far as the capacity between these two styles of travel, but also some of the other trade-offs and pros and cons that you want to keep in mind. So excited to dive in. Before doing so, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Danny, and on this channel we love reviewing popular travel and everyday carry gear. If you like these types of videos and you'd be interested in seeing more, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel out a lot. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. To kick things off, I did want to mention a few caveats as we dive into comparing the backpack and the suitcase. And that is mainly that it was a little bit tricky to find what I would say are two very equivalent form factors and sizes between a suitcase and a backpack. They are inherently very different as far as their, kind of form. And so what I have here is the carry-on from Friedrik, which comes in at about 40 liters. It's a hard shell roller. And then I have the Tortuga travel backpack Lite, which also comes in at about 40 liters. Now there are tons of different styles of both backpacks and roller bags. You have roller bags that open down the middle, some that are more just kind of clamshell style opening. You have soft-sided hard shell rollers, some with 2 wheels, some with 4 wheels. Same for backpacks. You have, full clamshell, suitcase style, lots of different materials. So keep that in mind as we talk through some of the characteristics and differences between a suitcase and a backpack. And this is just me acknowledging that there are definitely tons of differences, but if I tried to account for all of them in one video, I think this would probably be multiple hours long. And so starting off with, I guess, the materials, particularly if you're comparing a hard shell roller with, a travel backpack, that's gonna be one of the biggest differences. Of course, many of these suitcases have these kind of polycarbonate exteriors that are rigid, they're very protective, and they're not gonna mold around the stuff that's on the inside. They're gonna hold their shape, which is great because they're gonna be protective for the items that are on the inside. In some ways that can help with the space, but that will make it trickier to, kind of store in an overhead storage compartment if it's a little bit tighter. And it's also going to contribute to the weight. The weight is going to be a very, very big difference between a suitcase and a backpack in most aspects. There are some travel bags that are particularly heavy, but generally the roller bags, especially the hard shell ones, tend to be a little bit heavier. So the Friedrik one that I have here comes in at around 8 pounds, which is pretty standard with some of the more modern suitcases in this style that I've been using. They just seem to all come in at around this weight, which is tough, particularly when you're traveling on stricter airlines. That eats into your allowance quite a bit, but you do get that protection, the materials here, and the convenience of the shape itself. And with the backpack that I have here, this is a nylon material that feels durable. This is the type of thing that I've used for many years now on many different trips across this and different bags, and I've never had any issues with it. And it is gonna be lighter than most roller bags. And there are even lighter materials than this. This is something that felt like it landed in between some of the more rugged, heavy materials and the ultra lightweight travel bag materials that you might find. And so, it gets the job done. It's gonna offer a nice amount of durability. You have very solid zippers on this one. And then with a material like this, you'll also notice that it's not super rigid, and so you can kind of squeeze this into tighter spaces, and it will allow the bag to mold around anything that's on the inside. And so if you're not packing it out all the way, you do have the benefits of being able to kind of pack it down. And then if you are really packing it out, it'll kind of expand out, and that's something you don't get with a hard shell roller. You have some soft shell suitcases that can do something kind of like this, but it's maybe not going to be quite as flexible as some of the backpack materials that you may find. And then you have the big weight savings. And another aspect that contributes a lot to the weight on the suitcases is, of course, the wheels and the telescoping handle. And this is really nice. I've actually been quite spoiled recently that I've been doing more of a 2-bag setup to have a wheeled luggage that I can just use for all of my clothing and heavier items, roll it along next to me. A lot of them have these, really high quality, smooth working wheels. I'm a big fan of the ones that have the 4 wheels. Just feels a little bit simpler, very smooth, but there are the suitcases that have 2 wheels, and those sometimes work better for like cobblestone roads and things like that. But this is sort of the standard that I've seen a lot and that I mostly enjoy using. And so a lot of convenience as far as being able to roll your bag, maneuver it in a lot of different directions, but that does contribute to the weight. And then same with the telescoping handle, that's just another component that is going to add to the weight, but comes with a nice amount of convenience. You can adjust this, you can rest another bag on it. And so I normally have a personal item backpack with me to pair with the luggage, and having a solid telescoping handle has always been helpful with that. And then with the backpack, you're not rolling it, you are gonna be wearing it. And so this is where a harness system is gonna be very important. Lots of different style harnesses. Tortuga makes some of my favorite in general. And so something like this is gonna offer a lot of comfort. It's meant to be worn for a longer period of time with a lot of weight. This one also includes a waist strap that you can remove that offers a nice amount of support. You have load lifters. And so this is a really nice, comfortable bag, and being able to actually wear your luggage is very convenient. I've been traveling to places that have had a lot of changing from train to train, going up staircases and escalators and jumping onto public transit, and flying on stricter airlines. So and in all those instances, having a travel backpack can be just a little bit more convenient, particularly if you can handle the weight. Of course, it can get tiring, and depending on what you're carrying, how long you're gonna be carrying it, it might be a lot to wear something like this on your shoulders, but if you can handle it, you do get a lot of mobility, which can just work well in many different environments. And so although this may be the most obvious statement that I'll make in the video, the biggest difference is going to be that one, you're wearing on your back, one, you're rolling next to you. In my case, I'm traveling with 2 bags. Normally, if I'm taking a roller bag, I have a backpack with me. I will rest it on the suitcase, but I often wear it as well, particularly if I'm going up and down stairs or getting into a train or something. I'll wear the backpack so that I can easily pick the suitcase up. So I'm still wearing something with me. I just have more flexibility as far as the extra space from having a suitcase and a backpack. And so it doesn't necessarily eliminate it for me completely, but if you're somebody who just travels with a suitcase, you don't want to wear anything on your back, then that's definitely gonna be something to consider. Or if you pack a day bag on the inside. Before getting into the capacity and the main compartments, one of the other key differences between backpacks and kind of classic roller bags like the one that I have here is the organization that's provided on the exterior. So with backpacks, you're gonna have some level of quick access pockets. With the Tortuga, you have a pretty simple layout. You have a quick access pocket at the top, a little lanyard, you have another quick access pocket on the side, and then you have a dedicated laptop compartment that's padded and suspended. And so this is gonna be great if you're digital nomad, you're carrying your device, want to be able to access it, particularly if you're going through TSA, get it in and out quickly. And so Tortuga has an effective, if minimal, laptop area and organizational layout. They do have a pro version of their backpack, which gives you a little bit more. And then some of the other ones that I talk about on the channel, like the Air Travel Pack 3, Peak Design Travel Backpack, the Pack Travel Backpack, they offer a lot more sort of built-in organization, so that if you're somebody who likes to have a pocket for everything, or you have a lot of stuff that you want to be able to access externally, there are going to be many bags that will offer you that option. And with the roller bags, I personally don't love it when some of the more modern ones have like a laptop area and a tech compartment, because I feel like it just takes up space and they're not that effective to use. And so I really like a suitcase like this one here, which is just a suitcase. That's all it is. There's no external organization. But there are options that can provide some of the benefits that you would find on a travel backpack. Again, if you're just trying to travel with one thing and you need to carry your electronics with you and you want to store it in your suitcase, there are solutions for that. There's just probably not going to be as many options to organize, and sometimes, like I said, I don't feel like they're as protective, or it can be a really tight fit. Once you pack the main area out, it feels like the laptop can start to get a little crushed. And so that's been my experience. Others may have different experiences, so keep that in mind as far as kind of the tech and organization. And so moving into the main compartments, with the suitcase that I have here, we have these buckles, which have become more and more common these days. And I've normally used the suitcases that have the zipper that goes all the way around, which is very similar to the travel backpack. But this is kind of a unique aspect of suitcases, in my opinion, is having buckles like these. And so you can quickly open the bag up. I've been seeing also that in addition to being quicker to open, this can provide some level of protection from people trying to like poke through your zippers. I've seen some videos around that. I don't know how big of a problem that actually is, but if you get a little bit of extra security out of something like this, that's cool. And so lots of different ways that you can open and close some of these suitcases that are on the market. With the travel backpack, you do have the zipper that goes all the way around. And so these both are gonna have a quote-unquote suitcase style opening. Of course, the suitcase will, but the backpacks are often modeled to have a similar style. And so this suitcase has the 2 compartments to organize your stuff. There are gonna be suitcases that just have kind of one taller main area that's meant to hold a lot more stuff, and then kind of a flap on the other side. And then the Tortuga backpack that I have here does have more of that style layout where you have a deeper single section here. You do still have some volume on the other side, but it's not quite split down the middle in the same way that the suitcase is. For that, you would probably be looking at like a Cotopaxi Alpha pack, or even the pack to travel backpack. They have a layout that feels more similar to this, but I find that this Tortuga layout is, pretty standard, and in my opinion, easier to use if you're like a newer traveler and you just want a simple layout to be able to dump a ton of stuff into. And so at the moment, I have this packed out, pretty much to its fullest capacity. And so I have an extra pair of shoes here, packable rain jacket, a couple of pouches, toiletry bag. I kind of have an EDC setup here. I'll pack an admin pouch, Evergood's Civic Access pouch, 1/2 liter. I have 1 medium compressible packing cube, a 2nd medium compressible packing cube from Peak Design, and then the small compressible packing cube from Peak Design. So all of those items fit in there very comfortably, and it still felt like there was a little bit of space. And on the other side, on the lid, you have some built-in organization. I like these pockets here because they have some volume. They could be used as packing cubes if you want, but generally I like to just toss everything in this spacious main area. And so those were all the items that fit in a 40-liter travel bag with that type of a layout. Let me bring the suitcase over here, and I'll put all those same items in there. And so we have these compression straps here to kind of secure everything down, and then go ahead and start just tossing things in. With the roller bags that have the telescoping handles, one thing that's always interesting to navigate is that they kind of poke into the main area. They do take up some space, and so it's always interesting to try to find something to use this space for that feels effective. And so on one side, I'll go ahead and place the Peak Design packing cube, medium size, and then I can place the small packing cube here as well. And then I can probably fit this other packing cube here, kind of squeeze it down, trying to follow a similar pattern to what I had in the travel backpack. So 2 packing cubes stacked here, toiletry bag, and I'll go ahead and tighten this down for now. And then moving it to the other side, you have some pouches that can go kind of in the middle here in these gaps. And so you can all fit those in there pretty easily. And then here I have my extra pair of shoes. And so with the extra space that I have here, you can see that I could fit an extra pair of shoes, a jacket, another packing cube, a packable backpack. And so you just have more flexibility when you have extra space. I'll go ahead and close it for now with the items that are in there, and then get everything kind of next to each other once again. And so that's it as far as the packing comparison. Not a huge surprise probably that the suitcase was able to hold more than the travel backpack. And of course there are larger travel backpacks if you want extra space in this form factor. There's gonna be smaller suitcases, lots of different varieties, but in general I would say that, if you want to have some extra space and some extra flexibility, if you're gonna be traveling with a personal item bag, the suitcase is probably gonna be the way to go. It's gonna be the easiest to pack, especially if you're not as familiar with one bag travel, or you just don't wanna carry something heavy around on your back over longer periods of time. There is a lot of convenience to be had with the roller bag. And then of course, even though you might not have all of the space with a similar size travel backpack, just due to the additional compartments and the form factors and all that, you still get a lot of benefits as far as the mobility and just being ready to kind of tackle a lot of different environments. It's also going to be easier to store in more areas if you're on an airplane. And so yeah, those are some of the things that you want to keep in mind. I wouldn't say that one is necessarily better than the other. As with all of these things, you really just want to consider where you're going, what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be packing, and then pick the tool that's going to work best for your situation. And so that's it. Those are some of the things that you want to keep in mind when you're considering whether you want to travel with a carry-on suitcase or travel backpack. Hopefully this video was helpful, and if you have any questions on anything that I covered in the video or suggestions for similar topics that I should take a look at in a future video, as always, please let me know in the comments. And I'll make sure to include links in the description below to some of the other packing and travel tips videos that I've done. I've also done a couple of different packing lists, and I'll also share some roundups to my favorite one-bag travel backpacks, as well as links to the reviews that I've done for some of the newer carry-on suitcases that have come onto the market. And I want to thank you again for all the suggestions and comments that y'all leave on the videos. They always provide such great ideas and inspiration, and so please keep those coming. And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.